we need to stop prepping for our D&D sessions. Now, I know that sounds crazy and insane, but hear me out. Come on, we've all fallen into the same trap of creating this huge world with beautiful maps, with intricate political systems and pantheons and creation stories, for all of that to really not even be used by our players. All of it, they're gonna forget or they're not gonna ask about it, and it's gonna be wasted hours of prep. Over-prepping is never helpful. All it does is slow down your game and it consumes your time when you could be doing high-value prep work. So today I want to talk about 5 things you can do to stop over-prepping and enjoy your games more. Okay, number 1, stop planning your Pantheon and your political systems before your first session. Now I know, designing gods and building noble houses and how things interconnect is so much fun. That's one of the things I love to do the most. But here's the problem with that. Most everything's gonna go unused. You don't know anything at this point about your player characters, about their motivations. You're building in a vacuum. It's really like setting a feast on a table before you even invite people to come in and eat. Here's what you can do instead. Start with 1 temple, 1 faith, or 1 faction. Just a general 1. Then what you're going to do is you're going to let your players shape the Pantheon and the political system. If you have a cleric in your party, ask them who their god is and what that means to the people of their hometown. If one of your characters is a noble, ask them about their family's role in the city, in the town. Let your players drive the world building in these areas, because I promise you, 1, you're going to have a lot less prep work to do, which is great. And 2, you're actually going to give the players some agency in the story, and they're going to feel more connected in the world you're creating. Okay, number 2, stop creating your world map before session 1. I fell into the same exact trap. I built this map right here, and I spent hours on it, but it's not useful. Sure, it's helpful to see where the coastline is, where the mountains are, but we're playing make-believe. We can make this up as we go along. And I'll tell you the real problem. The players really aren't looking at the map. They're looking at you, the dungeon master. Your job as the DM is to give them direction and purpose. Here's what I do, which helps a lot in my prep. For every town or village or city, don't come up with a big sprawling map for it. Don't come up with like the whole political thing like we said before. Come up with a vibe and a feeling for that location. Is it a gritty port town filled with corruption? Is it a trade hub bustling with languages and smells and food and culture? Or is it just a quiet little hamlet kind of in the shadow of this massive mountain where the cultists worship a shadow demon? Each of those descriptions is enough to give your players an idea where they can picture what that town looks like in their head. And it doesn't mean you have to go and create 30 pages of lore around this town. What it does is gives you something to riff off of. Okay, so let's say you're just starting out with a brand new campaign. Start your players in 1 location, whether it's a road, a town, anywhere. Pick 1 location, have a strong vibe for it. Then as your players interact with the world, as they leave the town or the village or go down that road, then you can fill in the blanks. Then you can take your pen and start filling in the map. Let your players help create the world, because again, I promise you, they're gonna be way more invested. Okay, clarification. Yes, you do need to prep the locations for the adventures. Obviously, in their starting town, have a couple hooks, have a couple NPCs, have like 2 or 3 notable landmarks, but you don't need a full map. Don't try to overbuild each city with all these different intricacies. Most players won't really care about the imports and exports and trade routes or the moon phases. And if they ask for that, just make it up. We're playing a make-believe game. None of this is real anyway. Okay, so save your energy for prepping things that actually matter. Point number 3, stop prepping campaign arcs before you really know your characters. We've all done it. We've all planned out this amazing campaign from level 1 to level 20 that has 3 different arcs with 7 villains and 3 sub-villains that all kind of culminate into this massive level 20 fight against Vecna. Yes, that sounds fun, that sounds epic, but that's not realistic. What you're doing is you're writing a novel before your first session even begins. You don't know your characters' backstories, you don't know their motivations, you don't know anything about them. You might put them in a situation where they're supposed to go up against this evil cult, but they've actually sympathized with the evil cult and want to join the evil cult, and then they actually become the leaders of the evil cult. That's happened. So not prepping your whole campaign before it starts means that you are prepared to go with the flow. You're not creating a railroad for your players. You're creating a open-ended narrative that they can help fill in. Also, again, this is just going to save you headaches and headaches of time of just over prep and things that will not be used. Instead, you could be prepping things that actually matter. Okay, so then how do you actually plan out a campaign? Start with very broad strokes and be very open to improv. Design conflicts in the world and NPCs, and those can evolve as the characters make decisions. And then ask the players what they want. What themes are they interested in? Do they want this kind of dark, gritty horror campaign, or do they want this kind of high fantasy Lord of the Rings style campaign? What are the personal goals that their characters bring? What are their personal quests that their characters have? Take those and weave them into the story, and who knows, one of those might even become a larger part of the campaign. This is something that is commonly referred to as emergent storytelling. So yes, we do have an idea of a main central conflict. There's a siege of hobgoblins on the city. Okay, that's the main conflict. But the story that comes out of it is driven by your players and their decisions. This is where player agency gets really real, where their backstories and their choices matter. And DMs, we get to reward our players for their creativity and their being involved in the campaign that we've created. What this does is creates a feedback loop of engagement and trust between the players and the dungeon master. It makes the world feel alive, shaped by the party, not in spite of them. So instead of plotting every twist up front, create opportunities for the players to shape the story. And I promise you the best arcs will grow from their actions. Okay, number 4, we need to stop trying to control every NPC and their story. I know it's so much fun as a dungeon master to create this very fun and unique NPC that has like this really intricate backstory, secret agendas, tragic pasts, and layered motivations. And it really feels like they're gonna bring that much needed oomph to the campaign, push the characters in the right direction. Here's the problem with that. So most NPCs are just background noise, especially early on. Players ignore 90% of NPCs unless they serve a purpose or they grab their attention. Really, the only NPCs that are gonna grab the attention of your players is gonna be a little goblin named Kevin who is the local bard in your tavern. I promise you they will want to adopt him. Over-prepping every single NPC is gonna bring burnout and a very rigid storytelling. Instead, here's what we can do. Focus on a couple NPCs, give them a name and a vibe. You're gonna hear this a lot from me. A vibe. Are they a barkeep with like a blue booming laugh? Is it a nervous scholar with a bunch of dusty books? Is it a kind of cheeky street vendor who's kind of like a charlatan? Like, come up with the vibe and an idea and just go based on that. Let your players' interactions with the NPC drive the story. If they talk with the charlatan and they get that idea that he's not all who he's cracked up to be, roll a d20 and see if that happens. Let the story unfold with your players' choices. What this does is encourages improv from you and your players and keeps prep light on your end. And then as the players engage with the world and help create these stories around these NPCs, they're gonna feel more engaged. And what's gonna happen too is if you make it up as they go along and you make it so that their choices matter, they're gonna feel so smart for figuring out your secret that you really didn't have in the first place. So stop trying to be a puppet master for every NPC and pick your moments carefully. Prep lightly and just come up with a vibe and a name and a species. Okay, last point, number 5. Stop overloading your sessions with too much content. Now, of course, we want every session to feel exciting, meaningful, full of options, and tightly packed into like a 2.5 to 4 hour session. The fear of empty space in your session leads to packing in puzzles and combat and NPCs and side quests, and it just gets up to be a lot. Number 1, it's just a lot of prep on the Dungeon Master and can lead to burnout. That's what you want to avoid. Dungeon Masters, if you're running the game, it's you put in a lot of work and arguably more work than all the players combined to make this story happen. You want to make sure it's a fun story for them and yet you're not burnt out by the end of it. Also, too much content can just overwhelm the players. If you have so many things for the players to interact with, they're going to be stuck with the analysis paralysis and not really do a whole lot. Also, it's so important that you don't rush any moments. Sometimes there'll be a one-off interaction with an NPC or a dungeon or a door that takes much longer, but it's becoming a meaningful moment for the characters. You don't want to have to rush through that because, oh, well, we got to get through this puzzle, we got to get through this dungeon, I had all this prep planned and prepped, I want to end right here. Be a bit flexible with where your players take the story. Here's what we can do. Aim for about 1 or 2 meaningful scenes per session. A meaningful scene could be a combat encounter. It could be a roleplay scene that kind of deepens the story. Pick one, let it be open-ended, and let the players decide and choose. This could even mean downtime or exploration. Some of the most fun we've had at my table was when we were just running downtime. It's an opportunity for players to really get invested in the story and in their own personal characters' reflections. And then just trust the players to fill the rest of the session with their choices. What this does is it creates a space for spontaneous storytelling and reduces the prep time on your end. It keeps the game flexible and reactive and makes the session feel very alive and fluid and not strict and railroady. So instead of trying to pack your whole session wall to wall with things, prep a little bit less and listen a little bit more and watch your players bring your world to life in ways you really never expected. When you stop trying to over prep every little detail in your campaign, what you're doing is letting the world itself breathe and come alive. The story's gonna flow more naturally, and the moments that your players and the choices your players make are gonna have a bigger impact. And this means that everyone at the table is gonna have a lot of fun. And I promise you, as a DM, it is so much fun to go into a session and not fully understand what's gonna happen and be surprised as to where the players take the story. This is gonna take a mindset shift. You're not locked into a script, you're not writing a novel, you're playing a tabletop role-playing game. It's going to give the freedom that sparks creativity for you and your players. Speaking of super easy prep work, we actually have a playlist full of Homebrew Monsters Feud ready to drop into your campaign world. Go ahead and check that out right here, and I'll catch you guys next time.